Hi, this is a continuation video on the topic past adjustments. We are continuing to do example sums on this topic of past adjustments. Let's go to the third example. Example 3. A and B were partners in a firm sharing profits in the ratio of 3:2. On 1st April 2018, the capitals of A and B were rupees 1 lakh and rupees 2 lakh respectively. For the year ended 31st March 2019, interest on capital was credited to them at 10% instead of 12%. Give necessary adjustment journal entry. So, interest on capital was allowed to A and B at 10% instead of 12%. So 2% less interest on capital was allowed to A and B. So our approach to the problem would be to allow interest on capital to A and B for 2%, which is the difference between the 12% actual rate and the 10% which was actually allowed. We'll go to the working note. Table showing adjustment to be made. The first column is the particulars column. A divided into debit and credit. B partner divided into debit and credit. And final column for the firm, which is again divided into debit and credit. So we'll rectify the error by allowing IOC at 2%. For allowing IOC, we need to credit the partner and debit the firm. 2% on capital of A 1 lakh is rupees 2000. So A is credited with 2000. 2% on rupees 2 lakh, which is B's capital, is rupees 4000. So B is credited with 4000. We'll add the two amounts up, we get 6000, and we will debit the firm with rupees 6000. The errors have been rectified. So I will balance the firm column and insert 6000 to the credit of the firm column. The profit sharing ratio is 3:2 between A and B. I'll divide 6000 in 3:2 ratio and I get 3600 for A and 2400 for B. Since the 6000 is credited to the firm, I need to debit A with 3600 and debit B with 2400. And since I have debited the capital accounts, I will write in my particulars column reversing profits. And the ratio in which I have reversed the profits is 3:2. I will next total up these columns. A debit is 3600, A credit 2000, B debit 2400, B credit 4000, firm debit column 6000 and credit column also 6000. Next step is to ascertain the net effect. 1600 debit for A and 1600 credit for B. Let's go ahead with the solution. The fluctuating capital method is to be assumed. So journal, date, particulars, LF, debit rupees and credit rupees. The journal is to be passed through capital accounts. A's capital account, debit for rupees 1600 to B's capital account, again for 1600, and the narration being adjustment entry passed to rectify the error. So this is a solution to example 3, where interest on capital has been allowed at a lower rate than what it should have been. So we approach the problem by allowing interest on capital for the rate which is the difference between what was supposed to be allowed and what was actually allowed. Example 4. Meeta and Usha are partners in a firm sharing profits in the ratio of 2:3. Their capital accounts on the 1st of April 2018 showed balances of rupees 1,40,000 and rupees 1,20,000 respectively. The drawings of Meeta and Usha during the year 2018-19 were rupees 32,000 and rupees 24,000 respectively. Both the amounts were withdrawn on 1st January 2019. It was subsequently found that the following items had been omitted while preparing the final accounts for the year ended 31st March 2019. A. Interest on capital at 6% per annum. B. Interest on drawings at 6% per annum. And C. Meeta was entitled to a commission of rupees 8,000 for the whole year. Showing your working clearly, pass a rectifying entry in the books of the firm. So now we understand from the problem that interest on capital at 6% per annum was omitted to be allowed. Interest on drawings at 6% per annum was omitted to be charged, and Meeta was not allowed a commission of rupees 8,000. So our approach to the problem will be to allow the interest on capital at 6% per annum, charge the interest on drawings, and also allow commission to Meeta for rupees 8,000. We'll begin with the working note. Table showing adjustments to be made. Particulars, Meeta, debit for Meeta and credit for Meeta, and Usha column, debit for Usha and credit for Usha, and finally column for firm divided into debit and credit. We'll allow interest on capital, at 6% per annum. For interest on capital to be allowed, we need to credit the capital accounts. Meeta's capital is 1,40,000 and the rate of interest on capital is 6%. So Meeta's IOC is 8,400. Usha's IOC 1,20,000 into 6 divided by 100, which is equal to rupees 7,200. So Usha is credited with 7,200. The total 8,400 plus 7,200 is 15,600, which has to be put in the debit of the firm. Next, we need to charge interest on drawings at 6% per annum. So charge IOD at 6% per annum. Calculation of IOD for Meeta, the amount withdrawn 32,000 into the rate of IOD is 6% into the number of months from 1st January when it was withdrawn by both of them till the 31st of March 2019, 3 months. 3 divided by 12. ₹160 into 3, which is 480 rupees for Meeta, interest on drawings, and for Usha it's 24,000 amount withdrawn by her at 6% for 3 months. Which is equal to rupees 360. Now for charging interest on drawings, I need to debit the capital accounts and credit the firm. So I'll debit Meeta with 480 rupees. I'll debit Usha with 360 rupees. And I will add both of them up and credit the firm with 840 rupees. Next, a love commission to Meeta. For loving commission, we need to credit the partner. I'll credit Meeta with rupees 8,000. No commission for Usha, and the total against the firm debit 8,000. Now I need to balance the firm. The greater total is 23,600. I'll subtract 840 rupees and I get 22,760 rupees. This has to be divided between Meeta and Usha in their profit sharing ratio, which is 2:3. So 22,760 rupees divided by 5 is 4,552. This amount into 2 for Meeta, which is equal to 9104. I'll have to debit the capital accounts, and 4552 into 3 for Usha, which is 13,656. And since I have debited the partners, I will write reversing profits. And the ratio in which I have reversed is 2:3. The next step is to find the total. Total for Meeta debit 9,584. Total for Meeta credit 16,400. Total for Usha debit 14,016. Total for Usha credit 7,200. And the total for the firm, both debit and credit column, is 23,600. Let's go ahead and calculate the net effect. The net effect for Meeta is 16,400 minus 9,584. $6,816 credit, and on deducting 7,200 from 14,016, we get 6,816 debit. So let's go to the solution. Journal, date, particulars, LF, debit rupees and credit rupees. It does not say that the fixed capital method is being maintained, so we'll have to assume the fluctuating capital method and pass the adjustment journal entry through the partner's capital account. I need to debit Usha's capital account. Usha capital account debit, to Meeta capital account. The amount is 6,816. The narration being adjustment entry passed, to rectify the error. So this is a solution to example 4, where we had 3 errors. Interest on capital was omitted to be allowed, interest on drawings was omitted to be charged, and Meeta was not allowed a commission of 8,000 per annum. So we approached the problems by allowing interest on capital, charging the interest on drawings, and also allowing the commission to Meeta. Then we balanced the firm and divided it in the profit sharing ratio between Meeta and Usha, which was 2:3. Then we ascertained the net effect and passed the adjustment journal entry. There will be a continuation video on the same concept of past adjustments.